So this is a calcium perchlorate. You could find it all over Mars. If you ate it every day for a really long time, it's probably not great, but in relatively small quantities, it's not going to kill you. And if you can see in here, it looks very, very wet. It sucks up water out of the air. If I left this open for a few more minutes, it would be nothing but liquid. And so this is something that if you're a human on Mars could be helpful in two ways. First, it releases the water, so it gives all the water off. And if you're an astronaut and you're interested in surviving, that water is going to be very useful for you for a number of different purposes. The second thing that it gives off is oxygen. So perchlorate can actually be something that instead of being kind of this toxic chemical that we need to avoid, it can be a resource and turn this thing that we thought was a negative into a positive for us and make it so that it helps us explore Mars instead of being an obstacle to exploration.
A woman who claims to be a former NASA employee claims to have seen evidence of the most monumental cover-up in space history in 1979, as she saw two human figures in spacesuits walk calmly towards the Viking lander, the grandfather of today's Mars Curiosity rover, across the Martian surface. Jackie called into Coast to Coast AM in America this year, and asked the presenter to solve a 27-year-old mystery for me. She claimed to have been working for NASA, handling downlink telemetry from the lander, the first vehicle to send back images of Mars's surface, when she saw two people walking on the surface. That old Viking rover was running around, she said, saying that she and 6 colleagues were watching on multiple screens. Then I saw 2 men in space suits, not the bulky suits we normally used, but they looked protective. They came over the horizon walking to the Viking Explorer. Naturally, UFO and conspiracy websites have lapped this up, with some claiming that the humans may have been there to polish the lander's solar panels. This seems a little odd, considering that if there were humans there, presumably they could just fill the lander with petrol instead or take photographs themselves. There were probably about half a dozen of us downstairs, Jackie said. We were just maintaining the equipment. Then they cut off our video feed. We ran upstairs, but they locked the door, and taped paper over the door so we couldn't see. My question is, were they our guys? Other conspiracy theorists claim there were secret landings on Mars in the 60s, and the Apollo landings were actually a cover-up for wider exploration of the solar system. Former CIA pilot John Lear claims that NASA landed on Mars in 1966, and that humans adapted to breathe a thin Martian atmosphere. It should also be noted, however, that Lear believes that human souls travel to the moon when they die to be processed inside a mile-high glass tower, and that the toxic, crushingly dense Venus is actually green and beautiful. Nigel Watson, author of the Haynes UFO Investigations Manual, says, "These accounts of secret space missions seem to be growing in number and remind me of the infamous Project Serpo." In November 2005, a contact called Anonymous, who said they worked for the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, started sending information about an extraordinary alien exchange program, called Project Serpo. Basing his claims on a 3,000-page document written in the late 1970s, he boldly claimed that 6 aliens were recovered from the Roswell crash. Claims that aliens living and or dead were recovered from the Roswell crash are nothing new, but in this case it was stated that an alien survivor from the crash, called Debbie-1, helped to organize 12 specially trained people to visit his home planet Serpo in the Zeta Reticuli solar system. This mission occurred in 1965 and they remained there until 1978. During their stay 2 of them died, 2 remained on the planet and the rest, after returning to Earth, have died because of the high levels of radiation they were exposed to on Serpo. Bill Ryan, who posted these claims online, concluded that the Serpo story is a mixture of disinformation, that is truth mixed with added fictional elements, and naturally occurring compounded errors. Surrounding a core of extraordinary truth.
Wildcard Line, you're on the air with us. Hi there.
Hi. Having an interesting night tonight, aren't we?
It is, indeed. And where might we be?
I'm Jackie. I'm from, North Las Vegas.
Okay, Jackie, go ahead.
Okay. John, I'm hoping you can solve a 27-year-old mystery for me. Do you know what was going on in 1979?
Where?
Well, on Mars.
No.
Okay.
What was going on in 79 on Mars?
Well, I used to work at NASA during that time and handling downlink telemetry, and one night on our video monitors while, the little Viking rover was running around, I see 2 men in suits, not necessarily space suits. I mean, they look protective, but they didn't look like the bulky things that, our astronauts use. But they came over the horizon walking towards the Viking Explorer, and our vision got cut off. I didn't see what they did with it or anything else.
They were probably making repairs.
Well, that's why I was wondering if they were our guys or not. Cause
Yeah, they were.
Do you know what kind of suits they wore?
Pardon?
Do you know what kind of suits they wore?
Well, they wouldn't have to wear very much. I mean, the atmosphere is, there's enough atmosphere to walk around without a spacesuit on Mars, same as there is on the moon. I mean, there's not, it's like about 15,000 feet on Earth. Now, you can go through a 24-hour acclimatization program on the moon, and you can walk around without a spacesuit. Same thing on Mars. You don't need a spacesuit. If they had one, it was just minimal.
Did you have any other witnesses there while you saw this?
Well, there's about well, out of the workers, there's probably about a half a dozen of us, because we were, you've seen the typical NASA things where they got all the monitors.
Oh, yeah. So you had a few people out there monitoring the monitors.
Yeah, you got about, the people that were up there, and then there's about a half a dozen of us downstairs, because, it was just maintaining the equipment, because if anything went wrong, we had to get it up quick so they didn't miss the telemetry.
You folks must have been amazed at what you saw.
Yeah, because, when we saw that and they cut off our video downstairs, of course, we ran upstairs, and they've got on those side doors upstairs, they have those little windows. I don't know if have you been there?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, they got those side doors going up to the back, what we call nosebleed section in most stadiums and stuff. But anyway, you come out there, and we could look through the little window in that because they had just locked the door, and they normally don't lock it on us. But anyway, they just locked the door, and then they came, we saw some more on their monitors, and then they came over with some paper taped over the door.
They clipped it. Can you imagine
Jackie,
that, John?
I appreciate you calling and telling us that story. It is great, and it just confirms what's going on.
Can you imagine that, John? There they are looking at their telemetry, and they spot the monitors, and they're looking at the rover piece of it, and all of a sudden they see two human beings walking into the scene?
Yeah, absolutely. They were just like Mars rover, cleaning off the dust. They had their paper towels and Windex, and got cleaned off so it could receive the signal.
So this is a calcium perchlorate. You could find it all over Mars. If you ate it every day for a really long time, it's probably not great, but in relatively small quantities, it's not going to kill you. And if you can see in here, it looks very, very wet. It sucks up water out of the air. If I left this open for a few more minutes, it would be nothing but liquid. And so this is something that, if you're a human on Mars, could be helpful in two ways. First, it releases the water, so it gives all the water off. And if you're an astronaut and you're interested in surviving, that water is going to be very useful for you for a number of different purposes. The second thing that it gives off is oxygen. So perchlorate can actually be something that, instead of being kind of this toxic chemical that we need to avoid, it can be a resource and turn this thing that we thought was a negative into a positive for us, and make it so that it helps us explore Mars instead of being an obstacle to exploration.
A woman who claims to be a former NASA employee claims to have seen evidence of the most monumental cover-up in space history in 1970.